Così diamo inizio con qualche minuto di ritardo. Abbiamo fatto uno sconto al quarto d'ora accademico e quindi soltanto 10 minuti. Iniziamo. Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti. Do un benvenuto anche a chi ci ascolta o vede in streaming, perché abbiamo non soltanto una presenza qui importante e qualificata, ma siamo anche collegati in streaming. Benvenuti a questo premio internazionale, a questa cerimonia per la consegna dei premi internazionali di economia e società della Fondazione Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice. Io da adesso in poi continuerò, col vostro permesso, in inglese, perché abbiamo ospiti che vengono da altri paesi, anche da lontano, e anche per dovere di ospitalità. Il cardinale parlerà poi in inglese. Comunque ecco, noi abbiamo un eccellente servizio di traduzione, degli ottimi interpreti, quindi e abbiamo la possibilità appunto di interpretazione italiano e inglese. Ecco, quindi chi di voi ne avesse bisogno, vi prego, abbiamo le cuffie all'ingresso, vi prego di servirvene. So welcome, my dear friends, to you all, and thank you for being with us at this important event for the Foundation, the Economy and Society International Awards Ceremony, and I'm pleased to welcome you on behalf of the Fondazione Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice. I need to thank especially the international jury and the chairman of the international jury, Cardinal Reinhard Marx, the Archbishop of Munich and Freising, and the secretary of the international jury is the Reverend Michael Conrad. He's also here with us somewhere. He's professor at the Lateran University. I can assure you, believe me, that there has been a lot of work put in preparing for this meeting. It has taken a long time. This is the 7th edition. We started in 2013, and the selection process has become more and more competitive and complex. I mean, we have an increasing number of very qualified candidates, more and more difficulty for screening and rigorous evaluation. So really, thank you very much for all the precious and hard work that you put in preparing for this event. The International Award is a flagship event for our foundation. It's one of the most important initiatives that we carry on. For those who are not familiar for what we are and what we do, I remind you that we are a Vatican foundation and pro pontifice, so we work directly at the service of the Holy Father, and that we invest, our mission is to invest in Catholic social thought with studies, conferences, building networks, organizing training program. We have Monsignor Tivier here. We organize the course on the social doctrine of the Church, and but also dialogue, missionary work with business leaders, with academics, and with policymakers. You will well understand that we are very excited at the beginning of the new pontificate. This new pontificate with Leo XIV has chosen, has given a very visible sign of focus on the Catholic social thought, and that's our bread and butter. And so I think we have been put at the frontier and given a lot of responsibility in this critical but also very exciting time for us. Pope Leo was very kind. I think he received us in a private audience a few days after he was elected, and it was really a gift. We did not expect that he would have time before being inaugurated to meet with us. Not only, but when he met us, he gave us a very intense and insightful address. He explained what doctrine, speaking of the social doctrine of the Church, what doctrine means, and also what it doesn't mean. And I think I would like now to propose to you a few quotes from that important speech that, in my view, give a very clear and lively description of what we are trying to do today, this morning. The Pope said, Catholic social thought is not a set of ideas belonging to a religion. So it's not a rigid body of prescriptions carved in stone. It is rather, I quote again, a synonym of science, discipline, and knowledge. It is not an opinion, the Pope says, but a common, collective, and multidisciplinary process in pursuit of truth. So you see, the key word here is science, rigorous work of investing in science, studies, research, pushing the frontier of knowledge forward, onwards, and so respond to the evolving concerns and demands of the rerum novarum that are taking place in our world. The social doctrine of the Church is not in contrast. Being science is not in contrast, however, with dialogue, with exchanges, with human relations. On the contrary, and I quote again, the social doctrine of the Church aims to teach primarily how to approach problems and, ever more importantly, how to approach people. So you see here how science is linked to dialogue. And dialogue, dialogos, seen as the place of God, where we meet and we can put at the core of our concerns the poor. So the Pope here echoes what we read in St. Augustine about truth. Truth is not mine or yours in the Confessions, we read in the Confessions, but to be yours and mine. So there is an inherent link between science on the one hand and dialogue. The search for truth based on rigorous and critical thinking, this is also a word that the Pope used, the method of science, and the push for universal brotherhood, for Christian love, and the option for the poor. I have here a quote, forgive me, but I think I want to use the Pope's words and expressions because they are so appropriate and they express the idea very, very clearly. In the context of the ongoing digital revolution, we must rediscover, emphasize, and cultivate our duty to train others in critical thinking, countering temptations to the contrary. And then the Pope goes on, there is so little dialogue around us. Shouting often replaces it, not infrequently in the form of fake news and irrational arguments proposed by a few loud voices. This is the reality we are confronted with today. So these are hard words, strong words, and very, very clear words. And I believe there are no better words to explain why the event today for us is so important for the Foundation. Because it goes to the heart of our mission, to promote science, both, and dialogue, to respond to the evolving and challenging rerum novarum of our day. Both science and dialogue, economic, social analysis, and care for the poor. The Pope told us, you should be the voice of the poor. A science that must be enlightened by the reasons of the heart. You remember this is also a very nice expression which we find in Dilexit Nos, the last encyclical of Pope Francis. The light of Christian love, compassion, and solidarity. And on the other hand, dialogue that must be based, however, on integrity, objectivity, and must lead to the roots of the problems, the roots of the social questions, the roots of peace, and therefore lead to their solutions. So I think, dear friends, this is why we established the International Awards, and that is why we attach so much importance to it. We wanted and want to provide incentives as support to scholars and practitioners who are engaged, like us and with us, in the pursuit of science and dialogue, and in reaping the abundant fruits that only the intimate interplay between science and dialogue can produce. Now, the social problems we are confronted with and we will be discussing today are manifold and different. And we will have an illustration today of that by listening to the Laudatio that will be presented by Cardinal Marx, the authors that will also speak, and the excellent discussant. We have a very good panel that will comment on what the authors and the Cardinal have to say. For my part, and I really conclude, I can only say on behalf of the Fondazione Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice that we will continue to invest in science and dialogue. We are committed to promote the social doctrine of the Church through our chapters that are active around the world, active in 4 continents. We have around 35 chapters, through our conferences and seminars, through our training courses and schools, through our mentoring in favor of young people, and pursuing good practices, applying good practices. And we will therefore continue the international awards in the future with your help and your support, and under the guidance, enlightened guidance of Cardinal Marx. Therefore, we invite you all, the members and friends, the supporters and the stakeholders of our foundation, to be partners with us, to share our commitment, to share our enthusiasm, our passion in doing this work, and to travel with us in this very exciting journey. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and God bless you all. Thank you very much. After this introduction, the only thing I have to do is to introduce the person who will conduct the ceremony, and our anchor woman and host, Ms. Deborah Castellano-Lyubov. Deborah, where is Deborah? Here is Deborah. She is a journalist. She is the correspondent of Vatican News, a Vaticanista. Is there an Italian word for Vaticanista? I don't know. In English, sorry, I'm sorry, in English, there is no English word. Okay. Anyway, Vaticanista. Vaticanista, I think everybody will understand it. Now, she has worked in the US and for many, Prime League international media. She wrote books like The Other Francis, that's a very excellent book, and Leo from Chicago. But I must say, above all, she's a New Yorker. She is a New Yorker, and that marks for life, and she will bring, I hope here, the magic and the energy that comes from that great city. And I think she must show that we will have very serious talks here, very technical also, because the scientists speak this way. But she will show that we can be rigorous, scientific, and without being really too professional and pedantic. So you have a big task. Deborah, good luck to you, and over to you.
Grazie Professor Garona, apprezzo la fiducia e sono onorata, è un grande piacere di essere con voi oggi. Grazie Eminenza Cardinal Marx per sua presenza e partecipazione in questo evento. Comincerò in italiano, poi transizionerò in inglese, che chiaramente, come potete percepire, sarà per me un po' più naturale, diciamo. Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti. È un grande piacere accogliervi qui nella sala Giovanni Paolo II dell'Istituto Maria Bambina, accanto al bellissimo colonnato di Piazza San Pietro, opera di Bernini, in occasione della 7ª edizione dell'International Award Ceremony del Premio Economy and Society, promosso dalla Fondazione Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice. Questa mattina celebriamo persone e idee che contribuiscono a costruire ponti tra economia, etica e società, con uno sguardo rivolto a un futuro più umano, più giusto e più sostenibile. A nome della Fondazione Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice si rivolge un sentito ringraziamento agli sponsor dell'iniziativa. Tale preziosa collaborazione ha rappresentato un elemento fondamentale per la piena riuscita di questo evento, dal respiro internazionale rivolto alla promozione del dialogo e della conoscenza. L'Istituto Attesino di Sviluppo ISA per il Premio Internazionale Economia e Società, conferito a Padre Paolo Benanti. Il gruppo BCC Icrea per la borsa di studio conferita nell'ambito del Premio Internazionale Economia e Società a Padre Raman Susha. Desidero ringraziare il professor Paolo Garona, presidente della Fondazione, per avermi gentilmente invitata a moderare questo evento, questa cerimonia di conferimento del Premio Economy and Society. Per me è un grande onore e privilegio. Grazie. Thank you. Adesso in English. We now enter into the heart of today's ceremony with the Laudatio dedicated to the winning work of the edition, the book by Father Paolo Benanti, Human in the Loop, Human Decisions and Artificial Intelligence, and to the recipients of the scholarship awards, Dr. Enrico Frosio and Father Raman Susha. But let us extend a very warm welcome to His Eminence, Cardinal Reinhard Marx, Archbishop of Munich and Freising, and President of the International Jury of the Award. Your Eminence, thank you very much for being with us. Danke schön. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Welcome, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. For me, it's also a great honor. I'm here for I think it's the seventh, we have heard it, seventh award, and I was, since the beginning, I was part of it. The first meeting, we remembered it, was in Trier. I was Bishop of Trier, and then there was a meeting, and they invited me to create a little bit, to help a little bit, to bring the groups of Centesimus Annus in Germany forward, perhaps, to create a group there, and then I became Archbishop of Munich. And so the contact to Centesimus Annus was there. For the first time, I remember I said it, I had a conference as auxiliary, as a bishop of Paderborn, as professor of social ethics. It was just the day after 9/11. Just the day after 9/11, 2001, I had the first conference here about, I don't remember, about social ethics, something about social ethics. But that was the beginning of our contact, and I'm very happy that with this award we are going forward, that we can give a sign of the real actual thinking about social problems. So I'm delighted to announce the winner of the 7th edition of the International Prize, Economy and Society of the Pontifical Foundation Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice. We heard it, Professor Paolo Benanti has won the prize for his book, Human in the Loop, Human Decisions and Artificial Intelligence, published in Milan, 2022. The social doctrine of the Church, we heard it in the quotation of Pope Leo, is not static. It can and must address every evolving issues. The Church must always respond to the pressing needs of its time. Benedict XVI said that the social doctrine of the Church illuminates with an unchanging light the ever-new problems that emerge. Caritas in Veritate. Given the variety of topics covered, the books awarded over the years by the Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice Foundation are a beautiful illustration of the truth of this insight. Since 2012, they have addressed the issues of the common good, immigration, and I remember all these awards. Common good, immigration, the development of the financial system, the principle of sustainability, St. Thomas Aquinas' vision of the market, integral ecology, and the last, vulnerability. This edition's winner discusses the current issue of artificial intelligence, which Pope Leo XIV already on the first day of his pontificate announced as one of the most urgent issues to address in our day. And I remember the pre-conclave, not top secret, the pre-conclave, and there was this discussion also, and one of the cardinals said perhaps at the end the Church will be one of the last actors to defend human dignity in this great discussion about artificial intelligence. Professor Benanti is a well-known figure. He teaches moral theology at the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome and is a visiting professor of Seattle University. He serves as a consultant to various bodies of the Roman Curia, the Italian government, and the United Nations, where he is a member of the new Artificial Intelligence Advisory Board. Since his doctoral thesis, The Cyborg, Corpo e Corporeità nell'epoca del postumano, published in 2012, Professor Benanti has written approximately 20 books, many of which address the problem of artificial intelligence. Some have been translated into various languages. In today's award-winning book, Human in the Loop, Decisioni umane e intelligenze artificiali, the author aims to help readers avoid becoming too accustomed to the instinctive use of artificial intelligence and to continually marvel at the tool at their disposal in order to remain free. And I see it not only when the young people are using artificial intelligence, but also the older ones. It's becoming more and more normal, but they don't reflect what is going on. Those who use it indiscriminately run the risk of being dictated by the tool, becoming not the master but the slave. Only a critical distance allows man to remain master of this powerful medium, and it's becoming more powerful every month. The book is a great read because it is full of concrete examples and meaningful short stories that intuitively explain, even to one without expertise on the subject, the broad outlines of the historical evolution of new technologies and the issues associated with their use. The first 3 chapters of the book summarize the history of applying algorithms from the early days, explaining in clear terms the meaning of fundamental concepts such as causation, correlation, algorithm, neural networks, machine learning, deep learning, big data, and so on. In these pages, Benanti aims to retrace the history of how machines somehow became intelligent. The second part of the book aims to explain why it is important for humans using artificial intelligence to remain involved in decision-making processes and under what conditions this is possible. Chapter 4 presents the question of tragic choices, an interesting and much discussed ethical topic. Would you kill one man to save 5? For ethical options are presented and exemplified in detail to justify the option: Thomas Aquinas' principle of double effect, consequentialism, Kantian ethics of duty, and utilitarianism. Benanti concludes that there is probably no ethical system that can be satisfactory to everyone. If no perfect ethical system exists, it is not possible to formalize it and solve such problems using artificial intelligence exclusively. Here lies the importance of a new ethical imperative for our time. I quote, "It is first and foremost a question of always leaving space for man and his world of values with which to judge. This act may at times be precarious and uncertain, but it is irreplaceable and cannot be replaced by the machine. Keep man in the loop." Chapter 5 postulates a code of ethics for artificial intelligence, algorithms, yes. Artificial intelligence must be designed and programmed to cooperate with humans, whose role, as mentioned, cannot be replaced. Benanti postulates 4 conditions. Intelligence machines must be able to intuit the purpose humans want to achieve. Humans must be able to understand what the machine tends to do. The machine must adapt to the personality of the human it serves. And it must be able to adjust its assistance to the specific circumstances in which the human finds himself. In the final chapter, Benanti proposes that the development of artificial intelligence must be governed and controlled. This is one of the great problems. It is urgent to create bodies or institutional forums in both politics and economics where the ethical issues related to these questions are discussed. It is important to create a culture, an ethos, where questions related to the use of artificial intelligence can be openly addressed. It is not so much a matter of providing immediate answers to specific problems, but of asking questions and carefully observing developments. It is one of the most important tasks of leaders to, I quote, "clearly express the underlying values and ethical assumptions that guide the company's actions and the functioning of its products." End of quotation. Only where the purpose is clear can one judge the appropriateness or inadequacy of the tool. The great merit of Professor Benanti's reflection lies in the fact that he has long been an observer of developments related to artificial intelligence, constantly asking new questions. Today's award therefore seeks not only to recognize this single book, but Professor Benanti's entire career. With his research and publications, he has acquired a fundamental role in today's society, primarily in Italy, but also globally. Unfortunately, society seems increasingly drawn to simple answers. In our case, artificial intelligence, yes or no. Benanti, on the other hand, asks questions as an informed interlocutor in a complex process. The book is an invitation to participate in this process. Many publications are currently being released on the topic of artificial intelligence. Pope Francis also emphasized the great importance of this topic when he participated in June 2024, the G7 session on artificial intelligence, and in his speech he pointed out various, I quote, effects of artificial intelligence on the future of humanity, and concluded that it is up to everyone to make good use of it, but the onus is on politics to create the conditions for such good use to be possible and fruitful. In January 2025, the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, together with the Dicastery for Culture and Education, published a comprehensive document on the subject Nota Antiqua et Nova on the relationship between artificial intelligence and human intelligence. Artificial intelligence must be evaluated for both its opportunities and its dangers. The document first illustrates the difference between artificial and human intelligence. While the former is very powerful in solving certain analytic tasks, The latter has a holistic nature, involves all dimensions and activities of the person, also has a contemplative function and enjoys truth. As Benanti points out, the document states, I quote, technological products reflect the worldview of their developers, owners, users, and regulators, and with their power they shape the world and engage consciences on the level of values. The document Antiqua et Nova lists many areas where artificial intelligence can have an impact. It can change society, human relationships, the economy and work, healthcare, education, information, through deepfakes, privacy, ecology, warfare, and relationships with God. The document invites us to, I quote, critically evaluate individual applications in particular contexts in order to determine whether or not they promote human dignity and vocation and the common good. What we need now is a public and democratic debate on the opportunities and risks. But where can this happen? It must also be introduced and reinforced from the Church. It is time to understand what artificial intelligence means for the future of humanity. This is not just about the technical side of artificial intelligence, but above all about who controls it, for example, via the major platforms in the United States, who profits from it, and how this power is controlled. We are very dependent of these 5 big tech organizations. There was the idea to create a European platform. It's over. Now we are absolutely dependent. And I see there is not the technical problem is for me a problem, but who makes profit of it and is the only reason follow the money, profit and power. This is not clear, and the new American government has a clear position to destroy all rules, to get out of rules, no rules. This is, for me, I'm concerned about this. This is where the Catholic social teaching comes into play. The Church faces this task of vital importance, as Pope Leo XIV explained earlier this year. In his message on the occasion of the second annual Rome Conference on Artificial Intelligence in June 2025, Pope Leo clearly stated that the Church wishes to contribute to a serene and informed discussion of these pressing questions. History teaches us that not only time allows us to arrive at a clearer global vision. When Galileo Galilei placed the sun at the center of the universe, thus contradicting the literal meaning of the biblical accounts of creation, he implicitly posed questions to both faith and science. Today we know that the judgment of the Church, but also Galileo's findings, did not correspond to the state of later science. Therefore, caution is required when making final judgments or even condemnations. Rather, we need a movement of thought in progress, in dialogue with the sciences, as Pope Francis exemplified in Laudato Si, and as Pope Leo XIV continues to do. I think Laudato Si was the first encyclica where this dialogue was so clear, not only a dialogue with the text of the Church, of the former popes, to quote what we have said, but to dialogue with those who are present. This is, I think, for the future absolutely necessary. And Laudato Si is for me, it's the great example for the social teaching of the future of the Church. Pope Francis has emphasized several times that the problem of ecology can only be adequately addressed if we view the world as a gift from God to humanity. Faith always maintains its purifying function with regard to scientific discoveries. The same is true for the topic of artificial intelligence, clearly is illustrated in this book by Professor Benanti. We thank him for his help in understanding the importance of the problem. It's not the end of the discussion, it's not the beginning, but we must go forward. Thank you for your book. I'm also pleased to introduce the two winners of Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice Foundation Scholarship for the current academic year. The two winners are, we have heard, Enrico Frosio, Father Raman Susha. The first candidate, Enrico Frosio, is a doctoral student at the Catholic University of the Sacred Heart in Milan. The scholarship was awarded to him for his research on the topic Cultivating Vulnerability, the Benedictine Paradigm of Reclamation as a Proposal for the Integral Development of the Human Person. The research addresses a topic dear to Pope Francis and is also closely related to the research that won the 2023 International Prize, Carolina Montera Orphanopoulos, for her work Vulnerabilidad hacia una ética más humana. Mr. Frosio explores how monks addressed the problem of vulnerability in medieval monasteries to demonstrate how the experience of illness fosters in both caregivers and those cared for an awareness of their own insufficiency and the need to build an alliance with others marked by the filial solidarity that comes from having a common father. Father Raman Susha comes from Ukraine and currently studies at the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas in Rome. He received a scholarship for his research on mytho-design in the digital age, an ethical and psychosocial investigation of political technology. Father Susha has a background in digital techniques and intends to further his study of modern technologies of hybrid conflicts of warfare. The role of the mytho-designer, the specific object of his research, is to create a civilization through the development of ideas, history, symbols, anthems, and messages. Father Susha intends to examine this new technology through the lens of the social doctrine of the Church. So, also, auguri for you, for the two newcomers.
Thank you very much, Your Eminence, for your reflections and for providing a very thorough overview of Father Benanti's work and making us reflect on how Pope Francis, Pope Leo have reflected on the theme of artificial intelligence and how the ethical issues really raise some very key questions. Now we come to the long-awaited moment of the Economy and Society Award ceremony, and Professor Garona and Dr. Luca Filagrana of ISA are going to help with the presentation of the awards. So if I could invite you to come forward so that, thank you again, Your Eminence, for your reflections. Okay. So we begin with the book award, which this year is conferred upon Father Paolo Benanti, as was mentioned prior, theologian and philosopher. Of the Order of Franciscan Friars of the Third Regular Order. Father Benanti, thank you again for your work. We now move on to the scholarship awards granted to the scholars mentioned prior who distinguished themselves for the quality of their research and for their commitment to promoting the principles of the social doctrine of the Catholic Church. This one scholarship is awarded to Dr. Enrico Frosio, PhD in Medieval History at the Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore in Milan, with research focusing on medieval monasticism analyzed from a historical perspective, enriched by the most recent contributions from social sciences. Then, of course, there is the scholarship awarded to Father Raman Susha, lecturer at the Pontifical Theological Faculty, St. Bonaventure Seraphicum, where he teaches missiology, moral theology, and patrology, and gives lectures on social issues. The recognition is granted for a study on the theme, Designing Meaning in the Digital Age, Mytho Design as a Challenge for Contemporary Missiology. Our warm and sincerest congratulations to the winners. We now have the pleasure of listening to each awardee who will share with us their reflections. If I could please invite first Father Benanti. Thank you very much.
Eminence, authorities, everyone, thank you very much. Of course, I will feel much more at ease in Italian, but due to the audience, I'll go in English. First of all, I have a deep fear that after the words of His Eminence, I can just disappoint you. This is the first point. The Eminence is a master. I remember him giving us a huge speech in Trento almost 10 years ago for a World Congress on Ethics. And so 15 years ago, 50. I was so young. I was a PhD like you. Well, thank you very much. I would like to take this time to question myself if it's true that there are rerum novarum. Is it true that we have new things in our social space that need a special reflection, that need that the eternal light can illuminate the challenge of the humanity in this time or not? Well, to answer to this question, I would like to make really clear what is the perspective of who is pitching. I'm not looking at that like a technician. I'm not looking at that like a social scientist, but I would like to look at this kind of challenge in the perspective of ethics of technology. What does it mean? It's a perspective arise around the 80s and 90s of the last century that simply take in consideration one evidence on what happened when a technological tools impact a society. It's not a matter of judging the tools. There are no tools that cannot become a weapon. 60,000 years ago, probably when the first member of our species take a clapstick in his hand, it could be a tool to open much more coconut or a weapon to open much more skull of not friendly people. But there is another thing. Every time that we release as a humanity tools inside the social space, the tool produce a form of order and displacement of power. Just to give you a simple example of that, if we decide to build a railway, where we put the truck and where we put the station, make of this system something that is allowing to someone to get the transportation and is denying to someone else. This kind of impact on society is something that ethics of technology needs to simple offer to different stakeholders the possibility to have a discussion on this. And so the perspective that I would like to stress in these few minutes of reflection is in this kind of really clear direction. What does it mean that new things in society could change the displacement of power and the form of order inside the social structure? I think that this is one of the direction that the social doctrine of the church ping on us when ask us to be part of the contemporary society. Well, the first real changing in the object, in the things of our reality, is what we can define a software-defined reality. So actually we have a new class of objects that are not anymore defined by the structure in itself, but they have this kind of possibility of malleability given by the computational nature of the object in itself. If we would like to see a symbolic object of this kind of things, is the smartphone. Well, the smartphone is a piece of metal, glass, and silicium that has no function until the software is not uploaded on it and give us a lot of different functions. There is a professor, colleague of mine, that make a long research, everyone has his own beloved topics, about how changed the content of the pocket of the Western in the last 10 years to the smartphone. And the smartphone was able to eat the content of our pocket. Now, boarding pass for plane, credit card, keys, and a lot of things belong to the smartphone. If you ask to someone of the new generation, they told you that, yes, the smartphone is an object that has also the possibility to make phone call, but it's not made to make phone call. Well, but what is the new things inside this object? Well, first of all, you own the hardware. You pay for it. 1,000, 1,500 if you would like to have the last model, but you just have a license on the software. And from the point of the displacement of power, this is something that is really new in society. Are we still owning such kind of object? Well, if you look at the traditional Latin root of rights about what does it mean to own something, we have to recognize that the Latin sources of Latin law recognize three fundamental rights. If you own something, you have the right to usus, abusus, and fructus. Well, the right to use, the right to destroy it, if you want, the right to take the fruit of the using of the tool for something. If we own a horse, we can ride it as we wish. We can transform, this is really Italian, the horses in mortadella. Or, sorry for that, we can rent the horses to someone and get the money for that. Well, look at your mobile phone. Well, you can abuse it, you can destroy it. Someone will be happy to sell you another one. But you cannot use as you wish. The last model of the most famous company has the same identical hardware function, but some functions are locked in Europe for a conflict between the company and the European law. So is it yours or is it not yours? Because if I have a car, I would like to drive the car in any roads that I wish, not depending on the seller of the car. But what is actually really removed for us is fructus. There will be no such thing as an app store and the possibility of monetization on the app if the fructus remain on people that own the software, that own the mobile phone. And so this shifting of power in society is the premises to this huge tech giant that are simple in some way conflicting with some of the fundamental principles of the doctrine of the church, like for example, subsidiarity, and the ability of self-determination of the people. Well, this software-defined reality is everywhere now. Everywhere is a computational power, there is a software-defined reality. We have electrical cars that are software-defined reality. We have stores. If you enter in one of the stores that now are everywhere, there is not a cashier system. There is a software power that simply handle every possible scaffold inside the things. If the software breaks, the nature of the place is changed forever. It's not anymore a store, it's a warehouse. Nothing can get in, nothing can get out. The software attack on hospitals reveal the hospitals are becoming software-defined reality. Well, these new things probably require a space and time to reflect, to define what does it mean to be human and what does it mean to coexist as a human in this software-defined reality. The last view on this, and probably the last awareness of that, come from the conflict that now we are going on around the world. Ukraine and Gaza show really well that the nature of the weapon is a software-defined. What we are seeing with a really clear perception, especially at the United Nations level, about the Ukraine conflict, is that that 300 million tank that took 10 years to be designed and put in place can be defeated by a €1,500 drone by someone else. But you know, it's interesting because the drone is a software-defined reality, and we know from the battlefield that every 5 to 7 minutes, the software of that things is changed, upgraded, or modified by people that are behind the drone. And every time, such kind of object is a different weapon. Well, this is something that if we go in the direction of, weapon and national defense is struggling and ask us to redefine a lot of things. But the nature of software-defined things also asks to us if we can control it, or we can have an international law that can control it. Because, we know that if we would like to fly and we would like to go to the airport, it's not possible to bring with us a weapon. But what does it mean if you have a software-defined reality that when an online update that take 30 seconds can change radically the nature of itself? Can we still imagine to have an international regulation that can control in the standard way such kind of object if they can change the nature in a so fast way and in a so unpredictable way? Well, this is a challenging for all society, not only for the reflection of the church, but I think, and this is my personal experience in the last 2 or 3 years of international cooperation, that the principles that are at the core of the social doctrine of the church are so powerful, are so able to bring a light on what is important and what we need to do to make this digital society still compatible with the core value of a society as we know and as we desire. Well, but if we talk about artificial intelligence, that in itself is a special kind of software that is able to change the nature of the object, well, we have to highlight and stress some more elements. Well, the first one is that probably artificial intelligence become a broad and well-known topic when we start to develop an artificial intelligence that is able to work with languages. We have a lot of family of algorithms, a lot of family of using tools. They was not fancy for anyone until we don't discover in 2022 the GPT family and ChatGPT and this kind of large language model. Well, what is the new things that is connected to this kind of software? Well, that they change forever the interface between the using of an object and the human beings. Because before, when you design an object, you have to design something that is the surface of contact between the human beings and the object to make it workable. If you would like to design an hammer, you need a handle so the hand can pick it. Well, with language, you can express yourself in your natural and most useful way, and the system adapt to you. Is a new user interface. But the problem with this user interface is that that kind of interface is really able to imitate what it's look like the human behavior or the human personality. We have no time to discuss about this idea of artificial general intelligence or quotient machine. I would simply quit the topic in a really fast way. You know, we have a mathematical theorem, the Church-Turing theorem, that say that a Turing machine cannot solve any kind of problem. Well, to make short a long story, quotients is not something that is computable by such kind of machine. So there is no way that the machine will be with a quotient until we don't change the kind of computing, but it's not on the table now. But such kind of machine can produce in us something that psychologists call the theory of mind. Well, this is something that psychology produce and offer on the public space from some years, from some decades. And it's something that try to answer to the question, how could be possible that us, that are not the most strongest, the most fastest, the most powerful species on the earth, was able to change our place in the nature, being one of the most dangerous species on the earth. Just to remember Laudato Si, quoted by Cardinal Marx. Because you know, we know from fossil traces that 40,000 years ago, when we arrived to the Australia, and these unbelievable simple things how we can do that, we simply extinguish the megafauna in Australia. So we are a killer species. Well, the answer is really simple. We are a species that is able to have something that other species can't, that is cooperation. And cooperation is based on these things that every one of us has. That is the ability to understand other human beings like someone that we have a mind. So we are not strong like a mammoth, but we can have an agreement. I will attack in the front, you will attack in the right, you will attack on the back, because I think that, look, you like me could have an intention and a mind and something like that, and we was able to extinguish the mammoth. The problem is that the new version of chatbot, the new version of this kind of software that can live inside our device, are producing inside ourselves a theory of mind. So we start to interact with these tools as if they have a mind, and connected to the theory of mind, there is also the ability to have an emotional attachment, to understand them as a friend or as a partner. And it's really sad to recognize that now some fragile individuals are in society, are committing suicide, connected to the relationship with such kind of tools. And now the problem is, are these simple software tools without any effect, without any impact on human dignity, or should be aware that this condition of the human beings, and should we design such kind of interaction to protect what we are, to allow us to do what we want, or release them as a simple tool to maximize the ability of monetization of deployers in our everyday life. So this second question that is about the human dignity in relationship with the artificial intelligence is probably one of the other things on the new things that we face in front of us. And this brings us to what is behind such kind of artificial intelligence. Technically speaking, we call it a stack. What is a stack? A stack is a series of elements that allow, really physical, that allow us to experiment this kind of digital service in the public space. Every time that you interact with an artificial intelligence, this is possible because someplace, somewhere, there are microchips made by silicious and other rare land that produce also a lot of, distress to the environment. These chips are able to connect among them through a series of systems that technically are called data center. And on this data center, there is a huge piece of software that run that we call models. So behind every artificial intelligence, we have a multi-layer set of things that give the materiality, that give the substance to what we are talking about. But why this is important in the perspective of form of order and shaping of power? Because, we move from the 50 and 60 in which computation arose in society, and computation was in a huge, mainframe taken in some place, we moved during the 70s to a sort of, quoting, democratization arising from Silicon Valley, and everyone start to have his own personal computing power. And personal computation moved through the decades up to the most intimate version of computation that we are used to call smartphone. When I talk about these topics with my young scholars, they look at me in a strange way, you know, because I use the word intimate. And so I invite them to have such kind of experiment. Take your smartphone, done, good. Unlock the smartphone, done, good. Give the smartphone to the person to your right. If you can't, what is inside, the computational nature of what is inside is intimate. So computation arrived to intimate. But now, with artificial intelligence, there are no personal computing systems that are able to have such kind of computational power to be the stack of AI. And so we have, like His Eminence said, 5 huge companies in the world that are the only one hyperscaler that are able to have such kind of stack and give to us the computational ability to use AI. But all the life that the computational object has changed and taken in itself, bank, identity, and things like that, now are in some way attracted to this huge computational center. And this is a huge tension with subsidiarity, because these few players are the enabling player of everything that is happening in a digital or computable society. This is a challenge. What does it mean to have a social justice in a world in which just few players can enable or make things happen in a digital world? And this brings us to the last point of my remarks, that what is behind that? Well, behind there is a huge consumption of limited resources in the world. Probably the most evident one is the energy. One of the big company, Meta, announced that they have a plan to build a new data center that in itself is big like Manhattan. Well, and to give him electrical power, it's a megawatt data center. They bought all the electrical power that will be produced from 2026 up to the commissioning from the Clinton nuclear power plant in Illinois. So a user is able to detach a nuclear power plant from the grid and use for itself. Well, this is something, talking about common good, that is pinging on us, you know, because what does it mean? Our society, our social contract is able to get by because we have infrastructure. We have a water pipe that gives us the ability to survive. We have electricity, we have communication. Are data centers something that we should start to understand as a part of the infrastructure that allow the society to get by as we would like to build? Or are they the super user that can simply consume the majority of such resource because they can afford it? It's not necessary to go too far. 40% of the electrical power produced by Ireland is used by data center. And the cost of upgrading of the network go to the family. So it's not equally distributed on the different partners. Well, this is something that ping on us, ping on our reflection. And at that point, I would like to leave the privilege of my scholarity to be an ethicist. So the privilege to make question and to run away before giving any kind of answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Padre Bonanti, for your reflection that I think will make all of us think in terms of how artificial intelligence can impact on in every aspect of our lives, from a personal level to the level of war. And I think all of us will be looking at our smartphones a little different even going forward. I would now like to invite here Dr. Frosio for his reflection, and thank you very much for joining us and complimenting.
Good morning, and apologies for I'm going to speak in my native tongue, so Italian, because I'm a little bit more comfortable. Eminenze reverendissime, illustrissimo signor Presidente, gentili professoresse, stimati professori, signore e signori. È con gioia e profondo senso di gratitudine che accolgo la prestigiosa borsa di studio di cui mi avete onorato e l'occasione di prendere la parola in un così autorevole consesso. Abitiamo un presente non meno complesso dei tempi che ispirarono, quasi 150 anni fa, le pagine della Rerum Novarum. Lo storico del futuro guarderà con interesse a quadri politici, economici e sociali così articolati e dinamici, ma noi, cittadini dell'oggi, non possiamo non provare un certo senso di smarrimento confrontandoci con le inquietudini e le contraddizioni che scuotono i tradizionali paradigmi attraverso i quali eravamo abituati a leggere il mondo. Alla luce di ciò, potrebbe suggerire un che di paradossale che io mi sia proposto di indagare tematiche di cogente attualità, quali sono quelle connesse alle situazioni di vulnerabilità psicofisica, calandole tuttavia in un contesto di ricerca all'apparenza remoto come il monachesimo medievale. Eppure, credo quest'ultimo essere un giacimento di sapienza che molto può offrire sia alla contemporaneità sia al magistero sociale della Chiesa. Anche i monaci della cosiddetta età di mezzo si confrontarono con sfide a prima vista superiori alle loro possibilità e furono capaci di trasformare ciò che sembrava la fine del mondo in occasione invece di ripensamento e rinascita. È su queste basi che, poco più di mezzo secolo fa, Paolo VI elevò Benedetto a patrono di un'Europa sospesa fra le promesse della ripresa economica e l'angoscioso e precario equilibrio della guerra fredda. Oggi, come dopo l'Apocalisse del secondo conflitto mondiale, i riferimenti benedettini della croce, del libro e dell'aratro, invito al lavoro, alla cultura e alla fede, possono essere i cardini intorno ai quali riunire, riordinare e ricostruire. È anche di questo patrimonio ideale che si abbevera la sollecitudine verso il sociale della Chiesa. Ne è esempio recente il messaggio rivolto dal Santo Padre a coloro che sono affetti da sindrome laterale amiotrofica, nel quale li ha invitati a conservare il lume della speranza e a sperimentare nella sofferenza la profondità dell'amore umano, il mistero e il conforto di quello divino, la bellezza della creazione. Parole che non sarebbero suonate straniere secoli fa all'animo di un monaco infermo. La mia ricerca ha preso in esame come il monaco interpretasse la propria condizione di malattia, come si dipanasse la sua quotidianità e quali fossero i processi di cura che ne consentivano l'accudimento, e come le istituzioni si ponessero il problema della sostenibilità economica di questi meccanismi. Più che compendiare a grandi linee i risultati di questo studio, tuttavia, vorrei proporvene 3 aspetti che credo siano in particolare sintonia con l'insegnamento sociale cattolico e che credo possano costituire spunti di riflessione anche per l'attualità. Il primo è che la cura della fragilità non può essere circoscritta alla semplice dimensione clinica, bensì deve sempre considerare la persona nella sua integralità, come ha ricordato anche Francesco nel proprio messaggio alla Federazione Nazionale degli Ordini dei Medici Chirurghi e degli Odontoiatri. I sempre maggiori e sempre più rapidi progressi della tecnica non possono tradursi nella spersonalizzazione dell'assistenza, il caregiver ridotto a un meccanico dispensatore di prestazioni e il paziente a un oggetto rotto da riparare. Ogni progresso deve essere al servizio dell'uomo, non a esclusione dell'umano. Il secondo aspetto è che la fragilità non può restare un fatto meramente individuale. Chi necessita di cure necessita anche di sentirsi accolto in relazioni di fiducia e, al loro interno, di non essere soltanto un compartecipe tollerato per spirito di carità, bensì un protagonista la cui diversità di esperienza può farsi ricchezza condivisa. La fragilità è maestra. Accogliere davvero quella del prossimo significa accogliere anche la propria, in un rapporto di reciprocità per cui si è al contempo il buon samaritano e l'uomo percosso dai briganti. Il terzo aspetto, infine, è che non dobbiamo avere paura quando l'incontro con la fragilità pone alla nostra esistenza l'interrogativo sull'oltre. La nostra quotidianità scorre racchiusa in un senso di frenetica immediatezza che costringe spesso a restare sulla superficie delle cose, ma i momenti di fragilità, come la malattia, costringono a rallentare, a scoprirsi per sé insufficienti ai propri limiti, a cercare di attutire quel brusio di superfluità che offusca la voce più profonda del nostro essere. La fragilità, insomma, volge l'inquietudine del nostro cuore, parafrasando Agostino, verso ciò in cui solo può trovare vero riposo. Se questo presente ci chiama dunque ancora una volta alla responsabilità di essere sale e fermento del mondo, la storia ci offre per adempiere a questa vocazione l'inesausta ricchezza dei suoi insegnamenti e soprattutto ci invita alla speranza. Non una speranza cieca e nutrita di superficiale ottimismo, ma una speranza tramata di pensiero, la medesima che i monaci coltivavano ed esercitavano attraverso la preghiera, il lavoro e la lettura. Una speranza che è la sola, come riaffermato nella bolla sinodale, capace di non deludere. Ecco il senso più profondo della nostra sollecitudine. Non un generico agire, bensì un impegno a incarnare e a rendere manifesto. Consapevoli, mi si conceda qui di citare la splendida formulazione di Bernardo di Chiaravalle, che le nostre opere non passano come nell'aria, ma sono sementi gettate nell'eternità. Grazie.
Grazie di cuore, Dottor Frosio, per questa riflessione, per questi spunti che ci faranno riflettere. Grazie. Adesso mi piacerebbe invitare Father Susha to please join us. Thank you very much for your time and complimenti.
Your Eminence, distinguished members of the jury, esteemed representatives of the Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice Foundation, under the guidance of the President. First of all, I wish to express my profound gratitude for this recognition, which I consider not so much a personal award, as a sign of trust in the very theme of my research. So, how meaning is constructed in the digital age and how this process shapes society. We live in a time when it's no longer only laws or institutions that guide history, but also narratives, images, symbols, and stories. These are the new currencies of power. They are often the ones that move hearts, create belongings, or sow division. And in this new symbolic battlefield, faith is called to enculturation, to encounter peoples. But as Pope Francis reminded us, the people is not a logical category. It is a historical and mythical category. A myth is needed to understand the people. It is here that the concept of meta design comes into play, a relatively new term born from the reflections of scholars in Eastern Europe, but one that today becomes relevant also for the Church's mission. Meta design means art, the art of designing meanings, of giving shape to those narratives that orient collective action. It is not merely a form of soft power, but a force, an energy that is capable of generating identity, memory, and since in the Augustinian sense, memory is also concerns the future. And of course, the memory of the future is called hope. Yet we must overcome an ancient misunderstanding. Myth is not always a lie. In social life, myth is a vision of the future, a project that can be realized. Plato knew this well. In the Republic he writes that the first myth, heard by the young, must orient them to the virtue. That was in essence an early form of myth design. Today we see it in 1,000 examples. The idea of new alliances, the brand of a great enterprise, or even the founding of a monastery. All are born from a foundational story, from a unifying vision. The question is not whether myth exists or not, but which myths we choose to build and for what purpose. Here, then, is the first point of my research. For a Christian, myth design is a technology of hope. In the broad Heideggerian sense of technology, it is the human capacity to gather and orient the forces of the world. So myth design does not replace truth. It gives truth a living form and one capable of touching both mind and heart. Second point, every technology has two faces. The same force that can heal society and can also wound it. A myth can unite or manipulate. It can inspire or dominate. That is why ethics stands in the center of my study, to distinguish inspiration from manipulation, mission from marketing, and communion from control. Third point, myth design is not only a theory but a practice. Is a kind of cultural rite. It manifests itself in collective gestures, in civic rituals, in art, in media, in education, even in diplomacy. Every day, through symbols, we tune or detune the life of the world. And when we destroy the symbolic space, when the word loses its weight or the image is corrupted, the harm is not merely aesthetic. It is often spiritual, social, and anthropological. The missionary of today is, in this sense, a Christian myth designer. One who, like Christ in the parables, speaks to the heart, purifies myths, transfigures them, and orients them toward the kingdom of God. At the same time, he's a builder of media, immunity among the wounded peoples, a therapist of meanings, an architect of truth. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Father Susha, for the enriching reflection, and makes us really consider how important it is that these tools be at the service of man and not at the exclusion of man. Thank you. After hearing from our awardees, we now open for a moment of dialogue and exchange. Our discussants will offer their perspectives on the challenges that today's economy and society face in light of the themes and the ideas that have emerged from the award winners' works. We are pleased to welcome three discussants of the outstanding international standing. First, Lawrence Chong, consultor of the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue and CEO of Consulus Singapore. Lawrence is the group CEO of Consulus, a two-time TED speaker and a global lecturer on creative innovation and the economy of communion. He is the author of Creative Change, the first book in the world dedicated to change makers. Father Pierre Genoir, Vice Dean of the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas Angelicum and Professor of Economics at the same institution. Among his academic positions are being a researcher in the history of economic thought at the Farre Center, University Paris Panthéon-Sorbonne since 2018, and Director General of the Centre d'études du Solchois, a multidisciplinary research center in Paris since 2023. As well as Silke Schmidt, director of the Hans Seidel Foundation for Italy and Vatican City, an expert in politics and international relations. She has worked as a journalist for Vatican Radio, the German section, and for news agency KNA. From 2008 to 2021, she served as scientific advisor at the Konrad Adenauer Foundation in Rome. Thank you all very much for being here and for sharing your experience with us. Please come forward. First, Mr. Chong, if you could begin, but just take the discussion where you where you wish, the three of you.
Okay, first of all, it's really an honor to be here, Your Eminence, and Father Benetti. I've heard a lot about your work, and congratulations to you, and I'm an admirer of your thoughts, and also to the other winners of today. Just a very quick thought, and I think in general, because I come from the entrepreneurship side, it can be said that the richness of Catholic social teaching is sufficient enough as an architecture for global economics. But the challenge is Catholic social action, in my opinion, and not Catholic social teaching. Because Catholic social teaching is already widely studied and adopted by many theories and many thought leadership. And I give you an example. In 2017, when Pope Francis addressed the economy of communion, we greatly appreciated his critique, because he said to all of us, the 1,000 of us in Paul VI Hall, it's very nice if you are doing something for the poor, but until you change the social economic rules, until there is a victim, there will never be communion in the economy. And that really struck me, because I understood that the mission of today is not just a vision. The mission of today is action. And there is something I want to say in particular to this. In 2009, I did a project with my team on Islamic banking. And Islamic finance is really interesting if you looked at it. From the Sharia to the Zakat, and actually in Islam, for Sunni, they don't agree on the definition of Sharia. If you go to the Sharia of Saudi and the Sharia of Brunei and the Sharia of Malaysia, they are all different. But they do agree on how they manage their money. That's what they agree. And do you know, in Islamic finance, by market valuation, what is the total net value of Islamic finance? $3 trillion. And the very interesting thing I later on learned as I volunteered with the diocese, with Catholic foundations, our institutions, dioceses, religious orders, Catholic universities, we use conventional banks for our needs, assets, bonds. And I often wonder, what is the total Catholic asset that is available if they were to be moved like Islamic finance? That is something that is quite interesting, because I can say, even in the AI situation that we are seeing from Asia, it is a battle of capital. It is a battle of energy. And I know how much Pope Francis tried to encourage, through Laudato Si, Catholic financing to move towards implementing Laudato Si. I mean, there's some success, but not sufficient success. So I would say, Father Bonetti said that he's here to ask questions. I think the rest of us must act in concert with those questions of the day. And I would argue that it is important to trigger and to move the Catholic universe, which is really a very massive network. If you looked at the census that the Vatican has just released, we are 1.5 billion Catholics. And we have the most organized network in the world. We still run the world's largest social institutions. We still have the world's largest healthcare, and we still have the world's largest universities. What can we do if we can use Catholic social teaching, which I believe what Santissimos Anders has always been trying to advocate action? What can we do if we can use it to apply to modern economics and modern financing structure? Imagine a day where we can talk about Catholic finance for the poor, Catholic finance for environmental change, and Catholic finance for action. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Your Eminence, Mr. Chairman, members of the jury, and distinguished colleagues and winners of the prize today of the Economic and Society International Awards. It is difficult to speak after the enlightening words of Cardinal Marx and of all the speakers. But as Pope Leo encourages us to go deeper in the artificial intelligence challenges, I will try to do it as an economist, as an historian of the economic thought. And to continue the discussion, I will propose some thoughts on AI based on the concept found in Thomas Aquinas' works, the concept of bonum arduum. A bonum arduum is a good that is arduous, it is difficult to obtain, but still accessible, and which lies in the future. Aquinas develops this concept to address the issue of the aim of hope. The bonum arduum is the object of hope. Aquinas does not apply it to economics and to the economy. However, it seems a helpful concept to describe common good in that context of artificial intelligence, I think. Aquinas applies it allusively to work and labor, and the Pope John Paul II, who clearly identifies labor and works with the bonum arduum. But today, it's not the point today, but however, I think that we can try to apply this notion to what we can call a good use of artificial intelligence. And according to the Catholic social teaching, let's consider more specifically the quest for the common good. So let's consider the contribution of the artificial intelligence to the common good. This contribution is perhaps even more a bonum arduum than other economic activities, because it is possible, but not certain, that artificial intelligence leads to a good and moreover to a common good. And because the common good reached by the use of AI is a future result of a process. We can thus conclude that to serve the common good through AI is difficult, but possible, and it is a process. I will just take the example of human management in organizations and companies and in the society. AI could be used not for the common good. Instead, it could be used to spy on people, to make them compete with each other, and to assess individual productivity. It could be good, it could be sometimes bad. However, AI could also encourage cooperative gains and help overcome the difficulty of serving the common good in business and in society. Pursuing this line, 3 ways can be highlighted according to which AI contributes to the common good in business and society. First, AI can aggregate everything that stakeholders consider to be good. The common good is more than the aggregation of everybody's good. However, it constitutes a first step in a cooperative approach. Second, AI can facilitate communication so that every word spoken is audible to others by stimulating them positively. What is at stake is not just linguistic translation, but psychological translations, since everyone has his own language, and it is difficult to find the right words and gestures through which to reach others. AI may help managers and governance to implement an accurate process of motivating recognition and acknowledgement, and may help employees or citizens to adopt a reassuring attitude that facilitates relations. In a more objective approach, it may also help to translate point of views, as each stakeholders in the societies or in the company not only has its own psychology, but also a specific point of view due to his or her position in the organization. AI may facilitate the expression of this point of view in compatible languages that are understandable by other stakeholders. In this way, AI can offer psychological support, helping all the stakeholders to develop more cooperative behavior. Third, AI may be used not for surveillance, but for support. Instead of spying on people and informing the head, the manager of the government of shortcomings in the work of their subordinates, the machine can correct correct errors and teach how to do a task better, and even, through the analysis of messages, detect personal difficulties to be accompanied. AI could detect health or relationship problems and ask for help. As this touches on the boundaries of privacy, it must be strictly regulated by law, but this function of monitoring work down and be adapted for the good of the persons and the common good. These functionalities resonate with the idea of a common good in business and society, which would be a bonum ardum, because the interest in the event of success is indeed high, but success, it is realization of the common good, is not certain and remains future. In addition, we could ask, and we can add another question on AI: could the use of AI itself become a common good? We can go further and ask ourselves whether AI can itself be a common good in the production process. It is a good that benefits all stakeholders and is desired by all. 3 conditions thus appear. First, AI must be configured and controlled by all for the good of all. Everyone must see it as a good and be a stakeholder in the implementation of this good. Second, AI must be able to contribute to the dignity of labor and work through support by redeeming shortcomings, through learning, detecting personal and professional difficulties, and supporting solutions and through recognition in the language that suits everyone. Third, the common good concerns all the stakeholders, those involved in the production, but also consumers, production is then seen as a response to a need, and AI may then be a common good if it makes it possible to identify the common needs. To conclude, AI offers a multitude of opportunities to serve the common good in the economic life. This common good resonates with the Thomasian notion of bonum ardum, which Pope John Paul II already applies to work and labor. In some respect, AI can even become a common good in itself. This will depend on how it is supervised and on the intentions of those who are to take it up. Thank you very much.
Adesso io mi sento davvero nel dovere un po' di fare expectation management. Sono l'ultima speaker e adesso veramente dopo tutti questi interventi così interessanti e approfonditi magari riassumo un pochino quello che ci siamo detti anche da parte della Fondazione, la visione della Fondazione. Eminenza, dear award winners, esteemed experts, distinguished guests, thanks Deborah Castellana-Lubov for the kind introduction. It's a great honor for me to be here. I would like to thank Centesimus Annus, in particular Paolo Garonna and also Oliver Galea, for inviting me to speak on behalf of the Hans Seidel Foundation. The Hans Seidel Foundation is a Bavarian foundation based on Christian social values. We promote dialogue between Italy, Germany, and the Vatican, always in a European perspective. Today, I will briefly focus on 3 key points. I will speak about artificial intelligence and our democratic system. So the first point is artificial intelligence as a systemic force. Risk to public opinion, and then the third point, what this means, some key takeaways. So artificial intelligence today represents a systemic force, reshaping the very foundations of democratic governance. We have heard it. It's no longer merely a technological tool, but a structural agent that redefines the dynamic of the public sphere, the formation of public opinion, and the relationship between citizen and institution. Election campaign and political debates are increasingly guided by algorithms. On the one hand, artificial intelligence can promote innovation and participation in democratic life, we have heard about. On the other, it can deeply undermine of democratic decision-making. Digital technologies have transformed the public sphere into a new infosphere shaped by hidden algorithms, highly personalized content, and fragmented communication. This is what Professor Markus Krinke calls a bubble democracy, where invisible filters distort the information people see and public opinion drifts away from reality, weakening the very foundations for rational and thoughtful debate. The ideal described by Jürgen Habermas of a public sphere where good arguments, truth, and fairness guide discussion is under threat. Powerful private companies, we have heard about Patra Bananti, but also Cardinal Marx has told about, now control our communication systems, and profit comes before the public good. Father Paolo Benanti poses a powerful question. If artificial intelligence becomes as transparent as water, what invisible currents will it use to move us, and in which direction? Social media amplifies political messages and fragments for public debate. Traditional media once gave us a common reference point, but today algorithms shape our information, creating separate worlds. Even people living in the same society can end up experiencing completely different realities. Even more concerning in the growing erosion of trust in democratic institutions, influencers have become new sources of authority, and in some groups, their interpretation carry more weight than those of traditional institutions. So I come to the second point, risk to public opinion. Excuse me, one moment. the use of artificial intelligence to create content opens up also a new level of manipulation. During the 2024 elections, parties such as the German AfD used generative artificial intelligence to produce synthetic content aimed at emotionally influencing specific voter groups. Dark, dystopian scenarios were used to steer fear. Deepfakes we have heard about and micro-targeting show how thin the line has become between democratic opinion, formation, and algorithmic control. Those who control access to information can shape how society thinks. Experts warn that online gaming platforms, for example, are being used for radicalization, with groups like ISIS recruiting there. Patre Benanti has spoken about the chatbot Replika, for example, which simulates human conversations and creates a sense of emotional closeness, carries serious risks. Replika is not transparent. Where does its information on political opinions come from? When the company disabled certain tools we have heard about, many users were left emotionally shaken or they killed themselves. We must always remember, and we said it before, that the business model of these apps, like those of global platforms such as Google or Meta, is based on advertising, not on public good. The focus on earning money, not on what's the best for people. So I come to my last point, what this means, some key takeaways. We have just seen how AI shapes public discourse, filters information, and can even manipulate elections. But let me ask you something, a question you can answer with a simple raise of the hand. Raise your hand if you're more afraid of artificial intelligence, or raise your hand if you're more afraid of human foolishness or stupidity. Please. Artificial intelligence? No one? And human foolishness? Okay, that's very interesting. Perhaps the greater danger isn't in the machine at all, but in us, as we heard, in humans, forgetting how to link responsibly, to question, to act with care. And this call for guidance, we've heard, and leadership. I consider the Rome call for AI ethics to be a really good guide. It's about 5 years ago. 3 areas of impact: ethics, education, rights, 6 principles: transparency, inclusion, accountability, impartiality. E-systems must not follow or create biases. This is very important. Reliability and safety/privacy. The European Union is trying to put a kind of safety look in place with the AI Act, a seatbelt, as Paolo Benanti said, to keep human dignity in the center. Some says that doesn't go far enough. Others think it already goes too far, and critics worry that these rules might cause Europe to fall behind in the global race with the US and China. We must remain capable of action. As Paolo Benanti emphasizes, technology is never neutral. It always carries a vision of humanity with it. Every artificial intelligence application must operate in a context where humans are responsible, and they set the framework. Catholic social teaching, also we have we have spoken about, which we have heard, provides a good basis. We have heard subsidiarity and solidarity are crucial. These decisions must not be left to anonymous systems, and no one should be excluded by technological logic. Even self-learning artificial intelligence systems require regular human oversight to ensure they do not evolve in a way that harms society or disadvantage certain groups. Digital self-determination has become a new social question. Those who do not understand algorithm silently surrender responsibility. Democracy needs critical, informed, and engaged citizens, as you said. We need to act also in the digital sector. The erosion of democracy through artificial intelligence is not unavoidable. Artificial intelligence can strengthen democracy, foster participation, improve governance, and make knowledge accessible, but only if guided by principles such as we said, transparency, equality, and respect for human dignity. Paolo Benanti also reminds us we do not need to fear technology, but we must shape it, guided by the values the Church has upheld for centuries: truth, freedom, responsibility, and you have spoken about the common good. If we take these values seriously, artificial intelligence can not only protect democracy, but also become a tool for more conscious, fairer, and human-centered future. I'm convinced that the Church has an important role to play here, and with Father Benanti, it has an internationally recognized expert to guide this work, for which we can be deeply, deeply grateful. So allow me at the end, perhaps if I have time, with a personal note. I'm a mother of 2 teenagers, and a few years after the Rome call for AI ethics, Father Benanti said to me, there is a version of everything for children, a real drill for adults, a toy drill for kids, but the smartphone, we handed that to the children without any protection. It's like letting them drive a Porsche without giving them a driver license. And he was right. We are already paying the price for these mistakes. Denmark recently banned social media for children under 15 because there are yet 65% of young people now struggle with mental health issues. Next Tuesday, the 60th anniversary document of Gravissimum Educationis will be published. We urgently need a strong voice for education and must prepare our young people for the changes artificial intelligence will bring, especially in digital self-determination. Foundations, as my foundation, but also other foundations, associations, the Church, and civil society can all play a crucial role. We need spaces for dialogue, also like today, to have also other experts on the side, citizen platforms. We need fresh ideas. The expertise exists, we have seen. Now we just need the will to act. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much to our speakers. But I would like to interject with a couple of questions. And I relate to Dottoressa Schmidt. I have a 4-year-old myself, and I personally do not know, once he gets older, how to tackle these questions. But I'll be sure to consult all of you when that day should come. But we've heard Pope Leo, we've heard Pope Francis, we've seen in the Vatican documents the reflections on acknowledging the opportunities when it comes to artificial intelligence, but at the same time, the great risks. But on a personal level, how do we manage that? I know personally this week I was supposed to change the battery in my phone so that it would work properly, and I can't even part with it for about 5 hours because I was fearful that it would ruin the various events or communications that I had coming up each day. I don't know, I'm hoping in the next 3 days that I can part with it for a few hours, but thus far, no. But on a personal level, in your various roles, how do you manage the dynamic of doing your own tasks and obligations, but at the same time aware of this phenomenon, not letting it also become have too great of a role in your lives? So maybe Dottoressa Schmidt, you begin, and then we'll just continue down the line.
Yes, this is a really an interesting but also difficult question. I would like to run away because, you know, with children it's an everyday battle. And also for me, I think, yes, then there must be the consciousness that it's not that not everything you can download is okay. He said it, no, because we need to have this also the space with the space of dialogue with our children to say, okay, why do you want it? Why do you want to play with this? For example, Replica. No, it's really, really scaring that this app is acting like a human, because you know, until we know that ChatGPT, it's creating information, but there is no empathy. But now there is a real looking for empathy in the phone. So I think this is the real question of why are children connected to this application? Is there no reference point in their family or in their friendship they can speak with? Because this is, if they are asking this chatbot questions, they are not, they are scared about to ask someone else, and then it comes to this terrific conversation that might be also end in a suicide. We need to have a really clear look what is happening there, and we need to speak with the people. We need to have to create these spaces. I'm really convinced about this, because we need to go out of our bubble and to have also other people thinking in a complete other way, you know, because sometimes it happens that someone is convinced about something. I say, but how it is possible? But I think it's created really about this algorithm, and we as a foundation, we are looking to create spaces also like this, a conference, to have exchange, to speak with people also during the lunch, to have other opinions on the hand. And I think for young people, this is very, very important, and that they are not isolating each other only with a smartphone, and they will, left alone with these chatbots, because they are really, really dangerous.
Yeah, for me, because we work with the AI companies, and unfortunately, when you do this kind of work, you know that it's a new form of American colonization. AI is not interested if you have other languages that AI cannot make money from. So Urdu, Bahasa, they're not interested in, because there's not enough money to be made. So it's a new domination of English over these models, right? So my wife and I have a 10-year-old, she doesn't have a phone, and we make sure she has no phone in order to protect her sanity. And we speak honestly with her as an adult about what will happen to you if you have the phone too early, and to run her through these issues, right? Then the other thing personally is I had to change my whole business from 2017 to meet the question that Pope Francis challenged us. Are we changing the rules? And because if we know what is going on, then we know what we need to build to fight it, right? So the world is really very concrete. They will not listen to ideas. They want to see alternatives, right? So with a group of friends, for example, we are trying to build a inter-religious dialogue AI, but for social enterprises. But it needs financing. So we're trying to bring this to the London Stock Exchange. We are bringing interfaith assets, but all faith-based. That means Muslim, Catholic, evangelical, Buddhist, and all who believe that they need to finance a new type of companies that will use technology for good, right? So you have to deal with these things that the battle has gone far enough beyond who's right and wrong. The challenge is who is going to bring an alternative capital market, an alternative AI. The Islamic world is talking about Islamic AI. Qatar and all this are investing resources about how Islamic values will shape Islamic society. I think we need Catholic AI of sorts, because there is no space, no one can use. And if you hope these American companies to have a level of, self-reflection or what, you will have to wait. and there's something interesting I learned from a trip to China recently. In China, actually, their restrictions on AI is far more than the US. You cannot watch, for kids, what they call temptation traps because in China, they are focused on studying. They are very focused on making sure their kids do very well, because every time when they have the famous called Gaokao, Gaokao is one of the most difficult examinations in the world, when millions of young Chinese, they have to be good in culture, mathematics, science, languages, and it's incredible. And they give up technology to be, they're not looking at TikTok. That's the funny thing. It's a Chinese technology for the Americans, you know, but in China, these AI technology are actually very restricted in China itself. And it tells you a little bit more about the psyche of how the Chinese values control their AI to make sure that these tech companies, and it's very interesting that Xi Jinping gave a preaching to the Chinese tech companies this year. He said, all of you Chinese tech companies have to make sure that you are doing something for the good of China, not just for your profits. I wonder whether Donald Trump is saying that to Meta and Apple, you know, so I don't think so. So we have to be really careful that a new form of American imperialism through AI, and if we do not have alternative, they will dominate our free market. So markets are not free, yeah.
But the academic advantage possible in China through AI, is that something that's ever utilized in that way? Do students, in order to become, no, it's not.
No, they're not allowed to. They have to memorize. And they have cameras to catch you. They're very advanced in catching people who are committing crimes. So in China, you can walk around, there will be no pickpockets. There will be nothing, because they use technology to catch social behavior. So the inconvenient truth is that if you're a good Chinese citizen, you get points. But that's not something that a Western society can understand. But just to say that how Chinese value integrity, value good behaviors, and their Chinese companies are expected to behave in a certain sense, but not American companies. They're not asked to act according to ethics. They're asked to act according to profit. I say that's a reality we have to know. Yeah.
Father Pierre, now I would like to hear from you, and also from your perspective at the Angelicum. How do you manage with the students the fact that they clearly could have the temptation to be utilizing beyond what's strictly a minimum usage?
Yeah, as a teacher, I think all the teachers have the same experience. Is the difficulty with is the AI, which makes the job, in fact, which writes the paper, and I think it's one of the problems. But I think there is another problem, even with students, not only with kids, but with the students and with us, for adults also, is and it has been said already, but the affective link with the AI, when the artificial intelligence looks like to be a human intelligence or human person, and it is not. But everything is made to involve an affective relationship with the chatbot or the computer. But even if you know that it's a computer, you feel that it is a human, and it is not. And I think it's true also for students. It's true for everybody, but it is also true for students, because they are step by step they are more lonely and just with their computer or with their smartphones. And I think it is a real problem now. This kind of confusion between what is human and what is not, even when we know that, it is not a human being. It is interesting to make the experience everybody we know that it is not, but in fact we see that there is a kind of a relationship, and I think it is a problem for psychologists maybe.
But how to combat this? How can, from a Christian perspective in particular, but even if not from a Christian perspective, to work toward a common good, what can be done? Is it like a grassroots sort of movement, or who needs to be joining together? Mr. Zhang, you had mentioned how some of the mentality with spending money in certain countries, there's common mentalities. Should we be looking to join the mentalities? What are your thoughts? This is a question I pose to all of you, whoever would like to begin.
It's a very difficult question. We said about, I think at the end for our kids it will be really, really difficult, and there are some talents perhaps they can save you also: creativity, determination, education, as we said, because I'm really scared that TikTok is now ruining our new generations, but in China not so. This is also a kind of we have to really think about. So yes, I think, yes, this what really is human. We need to preserve what is also written in the book. And we need also our children to be really, really good in these things, to think out of the box, not only reading and copy-paste what ChatGPT is saying, to be, yes, aware of what can happen. And education, and also, yes, to have this rooted values. And there the church is really a good, yes, a good institution to look at. These values also to transform in our lives, yes, to live them, not only to say this is important, but only also to live these values every day.
Yeah, I think my view is that we are dealing with intentional manipulation. And we can no longer hope for a good conscience to fight against intentional manipulation. I'll give you an example. You know, Accenture, IBM, because Islamic finance is such a serious market, they learn the 5 principles of Islam in order to build technology tools to fit Islamic finance. All Catholic institutions buy IT. We pay billions of dollars to the tech companies, but we are beholden to them because we don't set the rules. The European Union is powerful, it's able to tell Apple to switch off because it's the European Union, it's a combined force. Imagine, collectively, all our religious congregations, all our dioceses, we have 5,000 dioceses, even 1,000 dioceses commands billions of dollars in infrastructure in IT. If they say, look, you want to sell us your technology, you have to go through intentional understanding of Catholic social teaching, application, they will do it because they need the money. So I think we have to be really careful that just hoping for good intentions is not enough. And I think when Pope Francis was talking to us in the Economy of Communion, that stayed with me. It's not enough to be a good Samaritan. It's really important to go and shape and change it. You have to deal. It's intentional evil. It's intentional evil that you're dealing with. You have to really look at a new heaven and a new earth, and you say, this is another better vision. But the problem is, we are not even measuring how our Catholic institutions are using AI. How are we using AI for good? We don't know, this institution. So I think institutionally, AI for good, starting within the Catholic universities, institutions, the organizations that we manage, then we can result in what we call subsidiarity and solidarity in a very concrete form. I think this is the thing that's really a struggle, even as a lay Catholic. There's a lot of debates on those things, they're very good ideas, but how do we move it to a point that it is a collective impact, right? And to be an alternative model in this profit-making AI that seems to be dominated by a particular narrative from the US. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that as Christians we have to be, not to be naive, but to stay in hope. And I would just make a step beside with what I told earlier with Thomas Aquinas and the Bonum Ardum. there is a risk, but it is possible that the AI helps to make a world a better world. But there is a risk that it would not be the case. And it is a future good, so we don't know the end of the story now. So we have to maybe to do what we can do and to stay in hope and to try to work well. But there is a future aspect of this this process, and maybe now many people, we all are trying to think about AI, but we have to keep in mind that it is a long process and we don't know the end of the story maybe. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
I would like to also open to the floor if there are any questions. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pose a question? If so, please, we'll pass you the microphone and just please introduce yourself. Yes, we have.
Thank you for your very intelligent comments. This is Patrick Brennan. I have a simple question, which is there any merits, or what is your view, this is a controversial question, if the Catholic Church should try and create its own AI?
Catholic Church creates its own AI. Yeah. Creates its own artificial intelligence. Well, I would say that how to say, Jensen Huang of NVIDIA literally said that where NVIDIA is going as a company is he foresees a future where there will be diversified language models. So if you look at what the Chinese are doing, the Chinese have their own AI model, completely decoupled from the Americans, completely in their own ecosystem. And if you look at the size of the Catholic Church, we already have the basis for Catholic AI. Now the question is, what will it be and what should it do? And I think it's a matter of decision. It's not a matter of whether we have because we have the basis and the Catholic social teaching for it. But I can tell you, in our work with other religion, in Buddhism, they haven't even agreed on what will be the precepts or the principles of AI. And in Islam, they haven't come close to that, but we are actually way ahead as a Catholic Church. We have the principles, we have the notions. Now the question is whether do we want to move in the direction is the other thing, and how can it serve the common good? And I can tell you, in many dioceses, it's not easy to find talent and skills because many dioceses are poorly resourced. We know this in the missionary lands. And many dioceses require real practical help, not just money, but innovation, knowledge, and how to apply Catholic social teaching in a very, very practical way, right? So I would argue that it's about decision, but we have all the conditions possible, we have all the financing, we have all the talents, we have the moral principles to do it, and it might provide a very good alternative model to the now for-profit model, which in my opinion is extremely damaging because you can say again and again, but Meta, Google will not change their behaviors because until they are challenged, they will not change. Yeah.
Would anyone like to comment on that question? No. Would anyone else in the audience like to pose a question? While you think about that, I'll ask my final question. In terms of as a professional in any occupation, it's just become so normal for all of us to have to do a great amount of multitasking, to the extent that if you don't do all of it within the next 10 hours, then everything kind of falls apart. How do you recommend almost anyone to be able to balance that dynamic in a way where perhaps you try to avoid using artificial intelligence entirely, but at the same time, by doing so, you also don't want to enable that those around you who are definitely using it are not from a competitive standpoint, but that they start to control the narrative, or they start to be the person who's getting everything done while the other person with the good intentions falls behind. How is that achievable?
Yes, I think yes, it is a matter of time. So artificial intelligence is so fast. It's really impressive. Also, DeepL, or also if you are using many languages, it's really fantastic what you can do also with this AI. But I think yes, it is the digital self-determination. We need to be aware of it. We need also to be to know it. What can happen? The errors ChatGPT can put in your text, or perhaps something is, and it's not about something that is evident. Sometimes it's something. It's more, I don't know, smooth. Something. No, una cosetta piccola. No, it's not the error you say, oh yeah, I can see it directly. So we need to be aware of it. It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge for our kids. But we see here our award winners, and they are burning for what they do. And this is also something we need to say to our children, I think AI is, very fast, very possible to do everything in a short time. Interesting also the perspectives sometimes it brings on the table, but you have to burn for your ideas, for what you are doing, because if not, you can't be good only with AI, I'm convinced. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that it is a chance that the AI still makes some mistakes. Because we know that we have to control it. For example, when you translate a text on DeepL or on ChatGPT, it's often is very good. But you have some things you have to check. You still have to check. I think the problem is coming when you don't even have to check, because the result is much more better just if you let the AI doing it by its own. And I think because it still means a tool, and it has to remain a tool and not to take your place, in fact. And I think it's the when you see that the computer takes your place, maybe it's the moment you ask the question.
Well, I come from the Focolare tradition, so these days the two things that reminds me a lot is living the present moment and how to use the technology for the glory of God. Because Kara Lubick often says that we have to embrace this technology in order to bring the gospel, to them. And I live by these two pillars a lot in this thing that I do, and I try to explain to my daughter, for example, that the technology is really necessary, because she's learning about artificial intelligence and all these things because the schools are teaching them to learn from a young age. In Singapore, the government's commitment is everyone must learn AI, right? And we have to bring spirituality to AI, but it's lived spirituality, not spiritualism, where technology and spirituality is not connected, but we need to bring it as integral. And I try to do it for myself, as in, when I'm using a piece of technology, and if that technology stops me from loving another brother or sister, then the technology is not good. And the most important is to be present. That I try to be as present as possible when someone is speaking. I'll give you an example. The other day, I was with a client, and she was trying to share something beyond the business problem. She was trying to share her soul. And I remember, the problem with the phones is that if it is in front of you, you will look at it, right? So I put the phone very far away, right behind the seat, so I don't see any messages, just to live the present moment for her, so that I can help her see the Jesus that she's trying to discover, right? So I think those are the things that we need to bring spirituality. They say technology is deep tech. We need deep spirituality for today's world. Yeah.
Thank you. I think on that note, we could start to, unless would any of you like to add any remarks to any of the questions? No. So, yes, one more question. Sorry, the microphone, se microfono potrebbe andare qui.
Yeah, thank you for all the intervention. It's very, very interesting. I'm Freddy Nicholas. I'm in the education of languages. And I can see how much artificial intelligence is impacting the way that we use languages and we learn languages. Actually, I don't want to speak about what is inside the technology, but I want to speak about how do we use with our students the technology and how we can improve the quality of learning. For example, we know already that it has no sense to ask students to write anything at home because everybody will work with intelligence and they come in the class, they have a perfect homework, but they are not able to reproduce it. So all the activities of writing, we do it in the class, not outside of the class. I think we have the same problem with the university research that many students will not use their own ability. So how to preserve the developing of the human abilities and not to depend on the machine? Because now, I mean, before we went with horses and then we have cars and now we have airplanes. So the instruments are a prolongment of our abilities. When we speak about knowledge and developing of the consciousness, how to preserve the human ability to think, to develop his own thinking, and use also the technology and the intelligence. So this is, in my opinion, in the education, a big challenge. So what do you think about it?
Thank you very much. It was very enlightening, and it's very true, the importance. Like, I know in the US, it was always pretty rare for us to do any sort of oral examinations. We didn't really reproduce. Most things were always in writing, and clearly that would need to change in order for it to be effective learning. So let's hope that that's been recognized. I now would like to invite Professor Garona here because, well, first of all, thank you to our speakers, and thank you to everyone. Thank you. Okay. Use this again. Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. First I would like to ask the Cardinal to come to the podium because he has kindly agreed that he will say a final thought on the meeting. And I replace the Secretary of State. Exactly. Because the Secretary of State couldn't come. So thank you very much. And I'm also happy that we found the time for a little discussion. There could be more discussion to do. I wonder whether Padre Benanti would like to say anything in response to no? You decline? You decline? Okay. But definitely we had a very interesting conversation. You have seen the variety and difference of the opinions and the topics that we touched, and so I think we had a lot of food for thought, and I think it will take time until we really can. But I think the only conclusion I can draw is in terms of strengthening the commitment that we have as a foundation to carry on this conversation. It doesn't finish here. So please stay tuned with us. We will have to engage in this. It's a difficult world we are living in. It's full of challenges. But we, as I repeat what I said at the beginning, we are at the beginning of a new pontificate who has really given us the strong indication that if we want to go to the roots of the questions, including for peace, we need to look at the principles of the Catholic social thinking. And those principles are not there, distant, carved in stone, but they are with us. They are in our hearts somehow. And they should be developed. They should become, the target of all the initiatives as scientists, as policymakers, as business people. So I think a strong commitment to continue working and working together, because only through dialogue and by working together we can achieve the desired results. So I think the only final thing I want to say is to thank you all. I'll leave the final word to the Cardinal, is to thank you all. Thank you for being here. Thank the people, you know, that we have been streaming, so they're listening to us from the distance. Thank you to the speakers. I think really I'm very grateful. I think you went, you know, very deeply into the topic and showing how wide-ranging is this problematic, and so I'm very grateful. Obviously, I want to thank and praise the people who won the award. I think you really deserve the award, and the things you said are extremely important, and so I wish you luck for the continuation of your careers, particularly the young people, bright future ahead of you, and continue also working with us and in the common perspective that we have. Having said that, I want to say that you know, we have given the awards, but also for the people who stayed here in a long, intense, and I would say also tiring morning, there is an award, a little award. We are going to have lunch. For those of you who have resisted until the end of this meeting, we are going to have a small lunch, a poor lunch, but a little award and a little recognition of the importance we attach to your participation. Having said that, thank you very, very much to you all, and I leave it now to Cardinal to conclude the meeting. Cardinal, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm not prepared for closing remarks in replacing the Secretary of State. But I think the last words are important, because when I was Professor of Social Ethics, for us it was always important to have the 3 columns. Social doctrine is more than the text of an encyclica. There's social doctrine, the gospel and the encyclica, the magisterium of the church, and the social science, which is applying it in a concrete situation with scientific methods, and the social movement. And this not going from above down, sometimes also from down to above, because the beginning of the social doctrine of the church was not the idea of a pope in his room, but the problems of the world, the Catholic social movement, and then the reaction of the church came to say, what is this here? So this going from there down, but also from down above. And so the action is very important, and the social movement. I think we have heard a lot of things. I will not make a new conference. The first time when I was in an academic situation to speak about artificial intelligence was on Georgetown University, 2016. We had not yet the idea of ChatGPT. That was not on the table. But AI was on the table. And so there was a discussion, and I made an input for the professors, 20 professors and I, about the ethical problems, perhaps about what is coming in the problem of AI and artificial intelligence. And there were absolutely different opinions. So I had the feeling this is a great challenge, but it's not clear yet. And also now, after the discussion, we say there are many, many points. And it's not the first discussion we made about artificial intelligence. I think many people are here in small groups, in academic groups, in workshops. We are speaking about this. And we feel this is the beginning of a new time. It's not only the problem of a new step in the development. This is a new time. Not only technical problems, economical problems, political problems, and ethical problems. And we are seeing in a world who is changing. Also, our model of democracy is under attack. And this has to do with all these questions. China is the future. I don't hope that will be the future for us all. This is not the way. Is the challenge to make to choose between the U.S. capitalism and the Chinese capitalism? This cannot be the way. So we have to work on it on another level, and to see this great positive things. I think for us as people from an ethical point of view, we see first the dangers, but also I say to myself, when in some years with artificial intelligence, the traffic in Rome will be much easier. This is a good progress, yeah, and this will come. There's no question about this. We will not guide our cars; they will be guided, and it will be good at the end. Better, less dangerous for all. So we can see a lot of things, but the other points are very, very difficult. We have now the model of a national protected capitalism in the United States. I've heard the speech of G.D. Vance. I was present in the room in Munich, and the people are looking to each other. What is going on here? What's going on here? It's a great discussion, and therefore the Catholic Church is not a state. And the Pope is not the CEO of an organization. He cannot rule we have many people, many Catholics who have absolutely political different positions. They're supporting these tendencies without rules. So I think for the Catholic social doctrine it was very clear the principles, but also that without a framework, without institutions, we cannot reach the common good. It's not possible. Not only everyone is looking for the common good, then at the end the whole world will be better. No. This is not enough. This is only individual ethics. Social ethics is institutional ethics. And this is now important. Who is responsible? The children, the parents, or the producers of this shit? Yeah. So we have to look who is producing what, fake news or whatever. Can we change this and not say, are you responsible for who is bringing this in the world? I say, so we have, and I don't see a solution. It's not easy, but we must speak about this. Catholics must speak about it. In their political countries, in their political systems, they have to speak and to be clear in these positions, not against a new possibility of artificial intelligence, but to see this is a tool we have to control. I make the example of the great instruments and tools of war. Look on the nuclear weapon. What was it to bring this under control? Till today, and now they are dreaming of new nuclear weapons. I'm shocked. 60 years ago, Paul the Sixth made as first Pope the great speech in the Assembly of the United Nations. Jamais la guerre, jamais la guerre. This is, we're speaking about the war as it is normal. This is not normal. This is back from our civilization, of the level of civilization. We are going back. We are going back. It's terrible. It's a new epoch. Not only a changing of some points. And this is the challenge. And so I think, and I think we all agree here, the Catholic Church has a great role to play. It's clear. But there's not one culture. We are not one company ruled by the CEO in Rome. There are different cultures. But there is a very important role, and we have seen this in this year, I think, when the Pope died, the Pope Francis died, and I was there and the pre-conclave, and then I've seen the election of the Pope. was in the room, it's clear. And the public in the world, the media people said to me, were more open, more than 12 years ago, attentive to what happens in the Catholic Church. The Pakistan cardinal said, a minister of a very Islamic country telephoned me to say their words for the death of Francis. In China, they've seen it. I've heard it. So this was the desire of human beings, I think, this is my interpretation. It must be also in this world of nationalism, national protected capitalism, or cultural polarization, cultural wars, holy wars against the decadent West from Russia. It must be a voice above all national and economical interests. This is perhaps all agree. This is not easy, but only the Pope can make it. No other religion can be this voice. Not with power, we cannot force someone, but to make clear without this vision that we are one family of human beings. This is content of our faith. It's not a moral idea. This is our faith, that every human beings are brothers and sisters of one Father. We are connected to each other. It's one planet given to us. We cannot force that the people think like this, but we can say it. And the Pope is therefore for the future, I think, much more important than ever. So, with hope, we are pilgrims of hope in the Holy Year. We go not with fear in our future, but with clear points. We have seen the problems, but we are pilgrims of hope. And I think that is our role for the future of the human beings, not for the future of the Church, for the future of the world. We have to do our duty. Let us pray. Almighty Father, you have given us this planet. You have given us our life, our intelligence, our conscience, our capacity to work together, to cooperate, and to see the other, to see the neighbor, to look on the common good of all human beings, of the whole creation, not only of human beings. Help us to give our work in this great development of a better world. Give us courage and hope, and let us be a sign of hope for many people. So give us your benediction. Sit nomen Domini benedictum, ex hoc nunc et usque in saeculum, adiutorium nostrum in nomine Domini, qui fecit caelum et terram. Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen. Coraggio.
Thank you very much, Cardinal. Thank you very much. And thank you to you all. And please, outside there is lunch for everybody. We continue the conversation. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Wonderful. Very nice talks.
Very.